Good morning. I'm very happy to be here today and represent the European Union, and especially happy to be for once at an initiative and a conference that actually brings the actual entrepreneurs and creative people, cultural people to the conference, because we talk a lot about entrepreneurship and innovation in European Union and with the Serbian authorities, but usually we do that among each other, among civil servants, among bureaucrats and technocrats. So we very welcome that there is initiative from the bottom and from the actual people that are meant to be supported by the funds and by the policies that we have. I will be rather brief and just give you a very short overview of EU's cultural policy context, and then in particular some of the programs and some of the funding that has been available and will be available for Serbia in this area, and from which you can benefit. More broadly speaking, I mean, Serbia is now starting accession negotiations to join the European Union. And that's, of course, a very big thing. It's a very big step and really makes membership in the European Union as a feasible and attainable goal for Serbia. So the clear path forward, of course, means still a lot needs to be done in Serbia, and cultural policy, to be very frank, is of course not one of the main focus areas that will determine the process of Serbia preparing for accession to the European Union. Why is that? It is not because cultural policy is not considered as important, but because it is a policy area that is mainly seen as a national prerogative, and an area where there is not a lot of legislation, a lot of regulation from the European Union. And sometimes that can be a good thing if there's not too much regulation from the EU side. So it is something that really countries are supposed to take care of mainly nationally. The areas which will be decisive for Serbia to join the European Union will be the ones of rule of law, the adoption of EU standards in many sectors and policy areas, and of course the dialogue with Pristina and the normalization of the relations. That doesn't mean that cultural policy is not important and is not paid attention to by the European Union. And in particular, now that Serbia will start this process, it is an opportunity because Serbia will get access to a lot of programs, networks, support areas in the field of culture and innovation, from which creative industries, entrepreneurs that are active in this field can benefit. So, going through a little bit the policy context, I mean, the European Union's cultural policy has really three objectives and three political ambitions. First of all, we want to promote cultural diversity and intercultural dialogue between the various countries in Europe, the member states, but in particular also the countries aspiring to become members, such as Serbia. Secondly, the European Union wants to promote culture as a catalyst for creativity and innovation. And thirdly, we want to promote the international dimension of culture. I think Europe has an incredibly rich cultural history and also current cultural context and cultural diversity. And this is something really the European Union tries to preserve and tries to help to grow. And the various programs and the funding instruments that exist always have this objective. Our key reference, if you want, is the 2005 UNESCO Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expression. The European Union recognizes this convention as being the main pillar of global governance in cultural matters, and we are very happy, as was already mentioned, that Serbia ratified this convention in 2009 and thereby commits itself to the aims of this convention and promotion of cultural diversity. We have a European agenda for culture, I will to explain you briefly what that means and how it works. It mainly is implemented through a number of multi-annual work plans, meaning the member states agree on work plans to support cultural development. And the tools that are used for that is to have a very open method of coordination, meaning we have a dialogue among all the member states on these issues and support also a structural dialogue, not only at the level of governments talking to each other, what I mentioned in the beginning, and talking to the institutions of the European Union, but also to talk with civil society, to talk with entrepreneurs, to talk with those people who actually practice culture, if you want. And of course, this European agenda includes various policy documents and, probably interesting for you, several funding instruments. So I would like to present you now very, very briefly the different funding tools that exist in the field of culture. If we look backwards first, we have a culture program which was running 2007-2013 and which made available 400 million euros for funding projects in the field of culture. And already from this program, the majority of funds have been awarded, a total of 345 million euros for the whole European Union, plus, of course, the countries that are aspiring to become a member. In total, that has meant funding for more than 2,000 projects and more than 5,000 cultural organizations that have participated. Serbia already was open to participate and was also reasonably successful, having received 167 project proposals, out of which 39 have been awarded grants, many of which, or most of which, for literary translations. It's a reasonable average success rate, meaning every fourth application that was sent to this program received funding, and Serbia received in this way over 1.2 million euros, where it was the actual project leader and even the best performance of the countries in the Western Balkans. Also participated in several programs as a partner. Now that's backwards looking, what has been done. Now is a new financial perspective. European budget is planned for 7 years, and this year it starts the period 2014-2020. And the new program in this area is called Creative Europe and has a budget of 1.5 billion euros. So it is even an increase of 9% of funding compared to the past. This Creative Europe program will have 3 main pillars or components: one on culture, one on media, and one on cross-sectoral projects. And you can see here the division of funding and the division of a percentage among these pillars. The objectives of the Creative Europe program are the ones also I mentioned at the beginning, meaning European cultural and linguistic diversity should be promoted with the projects. And increasingly, we want also this program to support more and more the strengthening of competitiveness of cultural civil society. So supporting creative industries such as those that you represent, and in this way helping to support smart, sustainable and inclusive growth. So also to help to create jobs and to improve the economic situation to which cultural organizations can very much contribute. The actual sub-programs and actions that will be supported are cooperation projects among countries, among partners, literary translation projects, support of building up of networks and platforms in the field of culture. And countries that can apply are the European member states, of course, but also the countries that are trying to become member states, such as Serbia, meaning candidate countries, as well as other countries that are associated to the European Union, such as Switzerland, Norway, etc. What is new is that also countries from the neighborhood area can participate. For example, Ukraine, Moldova, so countries in the wider Europe framework. In addition, there's also the possibility for bilateral cooperation with other third countries beyond all of those I mentioned and listed. So the eligible area and eligible countries that can participate in the Creative Europe program has been expanded. Now, beyond those programs which are open for the whole European Union, Serbia and others, there are also EU support programs right now provided to Serbia already, and some of them also interesting for you, interesting for the field of culture and entrepreneurship in this field. The instrument that provides these funds is called IPA, the Instrument for Pre-Accession, and in fact the EU is the biggest donor to Serbia and has already since 2000 provided over 2 billion euros for various projects. And this includes programs fostering education, research, development, innovative business and cultural heritage support. So the areas of interest here. Just very briefly, which are those projects we already are supporting in the field of culture? We do have support projects for the Ljubljana process, which is a process supporting the development of cultural heritage. And in particular, we have two flagship priority projects here, one of which is developing a regional cultural heritage center in Senjski Rudnik. It's a project that is about to be finalized. And we have a new project which is about to start, which is helping to rehabilitate the Franciscan monastery in Bač in northwestern Serbia. On top of these more flagship projects, we have smaller facilities, and this is in particular grants that the European Union provides for civil society. In our 2013 edition of these civil society programs, which have annual calls for proposals, we have in fact focused as one of the priority areas on cultural diversity, and a number of grants are being supported under this civil society facility. We also have a very interesting and very good project which is called Innovation Serbia, and which has already in the last 4 years provided over 6 million euros of grants via the Serbian Innovation Fund, which is a public institution for small and medium-sized enterprises. And these are grants that are directly given to enterprises and are fostering innovation. And we have a series of very interesting projects, very innovative projects that can also be supporting creative industries under this scheme. So we have already done that, and because it is so successful, we will continue to do it. We have just now allocated a further 5 million euros for technology transfer projects under the same innovation fund, which will give grants for research and development institutes in Serbia to establish partnerships with business. And just this morning I came from a meeting where we discussed further support to this, and we want to continue to build up the innovation fund and continue to support giving grants to enterprises for innovative projects that can help to foster growth and that can help to modernize Serbia. We also have a big project which is supporting infrastructure of higher education, innovation and research. This is called the HETIP program. What it means is that we give substantial funding for the renovation of universities in Novi Sad, in Belgrade, in all the big cities in Serbia, and provide them with modern equipment, state-of-the-art, to really help to create a learning environment, an education environment which is modern, which is fostering innovation, and which helps to create the entrepreneurs and the cultural innovators and cultural people for the future. Because we think, of course, the education and culture, these areas in Serbia are seriously underfunded, are seriously in quite a dire need of support, and we hope that through this program we can help that. Part of this program is also cooperation with a loan scheme which is managed by the Ministry of Education and which provides funding for infrastructure projects, a number of flagship projects that are being discussed in Serbia, such as a center for science promotion and such as research and technology centers, incubators. You may have heard there's a project or a building that has been constructed in Svestara, another one in Svilajnac, where again we want to provide a framework, facilities for small companies to grow, to be taken care of, to be fostered, to be given good facilities, to develop good ideas that they have and to make them more professional. So this is one of the areas which I think is also very promising and where we expect the results from our projects in the coming years. Also to mention, we have programs of cross-border cooperation, which are programs where Serbia can bilaterally work with Croatia, with Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also with Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, so all of your neighboring countries, where we have also calls for proposal which try to bring people together, be it in the public sector, be it in the private sector, be it civil society, to exchange ideas, and where very often in particular cultural heritage, but also sports, music, cultural events are being supported, including also scientific and cultural research. These are rather small grants, 60 to 100,000 euros typically, that can help to make cross-border cooperation between institutions, companies and public authorities. So that's really it in terms of overview of relative programs or relevant programs in the field of culture and creativity. So to conclude, I mean, what can you do concretely? How can the European Union support you and how can you work with these European Union policies and programs? Well, first of all, of course, what you can do is with your organization, with your enterprise, with your partners, to apply for grants, to apply for financial support from the Creative Europe program. There is a call for proposal, first round to be issued in March 2014. So that is coming up very, very soon. Secondly, you can apply for other grants under some of the other programs that I mentioned, such as the Civil Society Facility, the Cross-Border Cooperation Program, and also the Innovation Fund schemes, depending on where you are active, what is your interest, what is your focus. But certainly, and that's also very, very important, I would encourage you also to participate in discussions with public authorities, because it is not only about trying to access money, trying to access funds, but also to change the whole policy context. And certainly there is a lot to be done in Serbia. So to enter into dialogue with public authorities, to bring the voices from the creative industries, from the artists, from the cultural people to the attention of those in charge that are making legislation, that are creating the policy documents, that are designing support schemes, so that they change the policies, so that they create a business environment which is conducive to creative industries and allows them to grow, and which allows also in the future, and in case Serbia or when Serbia joins the European Union, it will certainly have access to even much more funding from the EU side, to be ready to make the best use of that and to have policies, institutions and the framework in place that allows you to develop your activities in the field of creativity and culture. So this would be my conclusion and my invitation to you to participate both in our programs, but also to be active and to engage into activism and policy dialogue with public authorities, with us, with other relevant institutions. Thank you very much.